The value of tokenized stocks are rising drastically. We are now up 97% in the last 30 days at about $720 million. Monthly transfer volume is now surging to almost $500 million, up over 180% in the last 30 days. And we are seeing monthly active addresses as well as holders also skyrocketing, up almost 49% and also 28+%. So when we are looking at this, obviously Ondo is one of the biggest players here that is accelerating all of these big moves happening currently. But I'm definitely watching some of these other major players here, like for an example, even the XRP ledger. I mean, XRP, when we look at the networks here, I know that XRP only has one tokenized stock on it. It's worth about $55.4 million. But I do think that we are in the very early stages of tokenized stocks. However, one thing that is very clear when we look at these values is that the future stock market is going to be living on chain. I don't think that we are going to see Wall Street exist the way that we see it today. And I feel like all of these big players like Robinhood, the NASDAQ, they've all been telling us exactly what they are going to do. And it really started to happen this year where they are saying, guess what? We want to move to 24/7 trading. And the only way to do that is with blockchain, bringing stocks on chain and allowing the blockchain to become the core infrastructure around this. So as we really focus on this, we think about what's enabling this, which is, of course, regulations. Now, talking about that, we did just get a big update, which was just in. The SEC Chair Paul Atkins says crypto is his #1 priority right now. Now, if you guys have been watching some of the recent videos and one that I did make recently about the SEC flipping the switch, the SEC has been extremely pro-crypto on every single occasion. ETFs, they're already pro-crypto on that. They are starting to clear out all of the obstacles in the way of altcoin ETFs. Outside of that, Project Crypto, we are starting to see the SEC working with the CFTC on a few things around crypto to ensure that we get clarity. I mean, it's very clear that crypto has completely changed in the sense of how it's looked at and also how it's handled by these agencies like the SEC and even the CFTC. And even over here, we do have from Paul Atkins as well on the 29th. Today, we hosted a joint roundtable with the CFTC on regulatory harmonization. I look forward to working with my counterparts across the administration to ensure that the SEC and the CFTC operate side by side so that American innovation and investments can thrive. Again, we know that the CFTC and the SEC are working together on a joint harmonized framework for crypto. This is going to bring, a full-on regulatory framework for crypto that's going to be worked on by these agencies, which is something that we've talked about for years and speculated on, but it's finally happening. And I'm very happy about this because also just recently the CFTC did host an event, and I think that this was in the US, don't quote me on that, but they were talking to smaller crypto companies about how they should handle regulations and how they can handle clarity for the space in a way that innovation can thrive, but also ensure that these companies continue to operate at their fullest extent. So we want to make sure that nothing is slowed down. We want to make sure that nothing is choked off as well, because for the longest time, even with Operation Choke Point 2.0, things in this space were extremely hard to accomplish because every step of the way, there was a roadblock. Now, in 2025, everything that was in our way is now gone. And now it's all about how can we regulate this space? How can we bring clarity for this space? And how can we ensure that the US is a leader in crypto? And talking more so about that, we just got an update from Caroline D. Pam, who is, of course, the CFTC acting chairman. Back in the USA, proud to finish the greatest road show ever, Invest in America. Tens of thousands of innovators in Europe, the Middle East, and even Asia heard it straight from me. With regulatory clarity on crypto now, America is open for business. Come invest, hire, and build. And yes, we have regulatory clarity. I mean, guys, it's extremely important to focus on this because without that regulatory clarity, crypto is not going to reach its fullest potential. And this is why I've always said, even with Ripple and even with XRP, right? All of these utility-based projects, these utility-based projects, I know today they have a fake value tied to them. I've talked about this. I've addressed it many times. I do think that almost every value that we see in this space is completely fake. This is why I look at what's happening with regulations, as well as the institutional players diving on in, because what we are watching here is the entire stage around crypto changing completely, where it's accommodating for these utility-based projects to ensure that they, hit their real values and get utilized properly. This is something that I want you guys to all understand, that hold XRP. We won't see that real value until regulatory clarity becomes a big thing. And we are starting to see that get worked on right now. Now, talking about that roundtable discussion with the SEC and the CFTC, here we have from Paul Atkins. He declares today a turning point in history of American financial markets at the SEC, the CFTC joint roundtable on regulatory harmonization. For too long, the SEC and the CFTC have operated in parallel lanes, too often in conflict with each other. We are charting a new course. Check it out.
Today, I believe, marks a turning point in the history of American financial markets. For too long, the SEC and the CFTC have operated in parallel lanes, too often in conflict with each other, leaving the American public to bear the costs of duplication, delay, and uncertainty. That era is behind us. We are charting a new course, one that will solidify America's position as the world's financial leader. Today,
So yeah, the fact that these two agencies are working together on this is something that I would say is extremely important. I think that this is so amazing to see, because again, this is what we needed to see going back into 2022, 2023, 2024. It's finally happening now. I know that we had to wait for so long. It's been taking forever, but we're finally seeing that joint collaboration. And this is also a collaboration with major market participants as well. So we're getting both sides of the market tapped in, the TradFi side as well as the crypto side, which I'm very excited about. Now, also, we have over here from Coinbase's CEO, Brian Armstrong, says, "I've never been more bullish about clear rules for crypto. Banks want to ban rewards to maintain their monopoly, and we're making sure the Senate knows bailing out the big banks at the expense of the American consumer is not okay." Check it out.
You probably all know that we got the Genius Act already passed into law for stablecoins, which is great. The next step is we've got to get market structure passed. And I've actually never been more bullish on this getting through. We've already seen strong bipartisan support in the House. Now it's being deliberated in the Senate. This has not stopped the banks from coming in and trying to relitigate issues that were already settled in the Genius Act. In particular, they're trying to ban rewards on stablecoins, even though this is already settled into law. And we're making sure that the Senate knows that bailing out the big banks, which are having record profit margins at the expense of the American consumer, is not going to fly. That would be a foolish thing to do politically, because there's 50 million Americans like you who have now used crypto, and they want to make sure that they can actually earn more money with their money. Who'd have thought? So visit standwithcrypto.org if you want to help and support. We'd love your help in contacting senators and congresspeople to make sure we get market structure passed and preserve rewards on stablecoins. Thanks. You probably all know that we...
So yeah, listen, when we are thinking about all of these CEOs from this space, we've heard about it from even Brad Garlinghouse. They want clarity. One of the biggest misconceptions around crypto, especially from these big bankers and those that have supported the banks, they've always said, oh, the CEOs don't want clarity because they want to operate outside of the scope of the law. That was never the case, right? Brad Garlinghouse always called for proper regulations. CEOs like Brian Armstrong have called for regulations as well. But the difference here, and this is where things kind of get skewed, the CEOs wanted proper regulations that weren't going to kill innovation. And that's where they had a problem with this space getting regulated. They wanted to choke this entire space off and feed it to the banks. But that's not what's going to happen. But also, what's crazy about all of this is that we are witnessing even more moves being made from these agencies to ensure that the future is on chain. So the banks have failed. They will not, they're not going to play the same role that they have forever, which is, of course, being that main player that makes a ton of money off of consumers, and they get rich because of it, and they get bigger as well. JP Morgan is a great example of this. Even during the 2008 financial crisis, guess who got bigger? JP Morgan. They got richer as well, while the consumers were completely wiped out. That will not happen this time around. In fact, everything is moving on chain, and the big banks are terrified that they are losing dominance. Here we have from Caroline D. Pam. I've talked about this recently. The CFTC launches Tokenized Collateral and Stablecoins initiative with industry partners. It's the killer app to modernize markets and make dollars work smarter and go further, unleashing U.S. economic growth by lowering cost. Now, the confirmation of this is the fact that this is an initiative that is hosted by the CFTC, and we already know that the CFTC is now working with the SEC, and this includes Circle, Coinbase, Crypto.com, Tether, and Ripple. These are the players that are now getting tapped in to modernize markets and make dollars work smarter and go further. And Ripple is one of the key players here. And what's even crazier about this is we just witnessed another big update from the SEC, which was the fact that the SEC is exploring a plan to allow blockchain-based versions of stocks to trade on crypto exchanges per the information. Again, Wall Street is getting cornered. Banks are getting cornered. Crypto is in such a strong position right now where all of the TradFi guys, they are panicking. They are scared. We knew that this day was going to happen as well. Listen, they tried to kill crypto. They tried to kill crypto for years. And one thing that we always said on this channel is that they can try to kill it, but technology is not going away. It's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to innovate fully. This is exactly why, when it comes to the idea of big banks and Wall Street trying to kill, certain things, we have to take a step back and wonder, why are they trying to do this? It's because they are terrified that this technology is going to eat up their lunch. And guess what? Crypto has already started to do so. And the best part about this is that crypto is already replacing all those intermediaries that for the longest time have completely wiped out consumers. They don't care about the consumers as long as they are making their money. But that's all changing. Tokenized stocks are now becoming a reality. We have almost $1 billion tied to tokenized stocks. We have a long way to go here, but hey, it's happening. On top of that, stablecoins are essentially replacing the big banks. People are now sending money around the world at extremely high speeds and also at a fraction of a cost. And the banks are terrified of stablecoins as well. It's the number one reason why they're trying to launch their own stablecoins. When it all comes back to, crypto, the main idea here is that crypto is doing everything that TradFi wishes they could do, but they can't because they would have to give up greed, and they want to hold on to that greed. But the best part about all of this is that Ripple and XRP are a part of the big show. How do we know? Well, because of this announcement with the CFTC. And it's also the same exact reason why the SEC dropped the lawsuit at a perfect time, just in time for Ripple to be working closely with these agencies on unleashing the digital dollar, as well as modernizing all of these markets, including, yes, the stock market. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.